just hit the road. We got to the venue, and there was a phone call from our attorney, and I just knew it was bad news. When you get a phone call from your attorney, generally it's not good news. And sure enough, he said, look, you know that photograph that's on the cover? Those people, they saw it, and they're suing you.
Over to a friend's house, and they had been to a thrift store, and they had a photo album. They just bought the photo album so they could put photos in it, but they already had photos in them. We turned the page to this one shot, and it was this woman and this man, and the guy looked like he was in Nazareth. You know, he had the full-on big handlebar mustache and long hair, and they're just both cooked to the gills. They're both stoned. You could tell they had that kind of pied look to them, and the woman she was wearing a bandana for a bra. And he was holding her, and they were just grinning ear to ear. Took that photo, and we showed it to Bruce. And much like that look he saw when I played him the single for the first time, he's like, oh my God, this is awesome. And he says, can I take this? And he took it, and he had somebody do some color enhancements.
And to this day, it's one of my favorite covers ever in the history of Sub Pop.
Little did we know, though we should have considered it at the time, this couple, though they had split up, they still were in the Seattle area. And they went into Tower Records. One of them went into Tower Records.
Do you have this record? And the clerk was like, yeah, we got like 20 or 30 of them right over here.
And this is not at a time of CDs. This is still vinyl, still quite prominent. So it's this big picture.
She's like freaking out. Oh my God, this is a part of my past I don't want to remember.
And you go, what the fuck? You know, except they didn't say what the fuck. I think they have become born-again Christians. So they were saying like, what thy fuck? We had built up this head of steam, and we finally get a story. It was just the wrong story, because at that point in time, the bigger the record became, the more damages they could sue us for. So we're suddenly in a place where we're trying to, no, it's a small record, and it's going to stay a small record. And
they thought, we're going to be millionaires after this, or something like that. I have no idea what they thought.
Typically, when records are released, they're going to do most of their sales in the first 4 to 6 weeks. So to have your record pulled 2 weeks into it, I think it hurt Tad's career a bit. And we had to re-engineer the artwork and get something back out, and it was pretty challenging.
This is a big deal record. This is a record where we were going to break Tad.
Also at that time, we released a CD single, Jack.
There was a particular employee who we let go, who I remember just being hateful. And I swear to God, though I cannot prove it to this day, that this particular employee made me aware that we had infringed on their logo for the Jack single, where we basically used the logo, only we put Tad in the middle of the logo.
Ex-employee who was pissed off at the company. Otherwise, we probably would have gotten away with it, as their way of saying, shouldn't have fired me, bros.
Was not too stoked, thinking that their name of their product would be involved in the possibility of drunk driving.
And so we heard from police counsel, and they were like, we're going to sue you for millions of dollars. You're fucked. Get out of the business, go back to being a fry cook, get out of our lives, get out of our face, we're going to kill you, crush you, etc.
The label still hadn't sold Nirvana or anything, or maybe was about to, but that's a lot of money to put out there, and I think it really made it hard to get a second win to the record, even though the record was amazing.
Controversy sells if you have distribution. Unfortunately, what Tad suffered from was controversy without distribution. So suddenly you had all these people talking about this record that had pissed off, but that record couldn't be found anywhere. And, you know, that was a very unfortunate incident, I think, over time.
It was more just a nuisance in retrospect, you know, because here was this, like, punk rock band / metal band, not out to, like, mess up anybody's life or anything. You know, we're just out doing what we do and having fun doing it, and all of a sudden we got all these weird chain of events happening. And it was really bizarre.
Kind of comic looking back at it, but at the time frustrating as hell.
Parliament loves me, this I know, 'cause Bruce Pavitt told me so. They are weak and they are strong. Yes, Parliament loves me. Yes, Parliament loves me. Yes, Parliament loves me. You know why now? Because Bruce Pavitt told me so.
By this time, there'd been so much frustration and so much rancor and bitter feeling. That was really nobody's fault, but it had to find a target somewhere. And generally, bands rail against their labels. So, in a tried and true tradition, we did the same.
We would have been happy to stay with Sub Pop had they appeared to be financially solvent. But it was getting to be like they were owing so much money to so many different people around town, to the bands. We just saw it as a way of, like, saving our friendships with Bruce and Jonathan. Like, well, maybe we'll just, like, remove this sort of, you know, back away from the business side of things.
It's tough to be in a place where you're dealing with friends and having to talk about money, you know, especially when you want the best for your friends, and you're just not able to do any more than you're able to do at a certain time, you know.
At the time, you know, I felt a little indignant, but even at the time, I kind of went, all right, you know, it's like we didn't have our stuff together.
We wanted to see if we could do something different, you know, and there was interest out there. We had people knocking on our door, you know, wanting to develop us. The first thing was RCA BMG, you know, biggest record company in the world, was interested.
Partly what happened in our favor was, like, that Nirvana record was blowing up big, and the Pearl Jam record was bubbling under at that point, and the people in the industry realized they had no fucking idea what was going on all of a sudden. You know, it was like a few months previous to that, they could just sell Michael Jackson and Paula Abdul and CNC Music Factory.
A lot of people were investing huge amounts of money into these bands, thinking this is, you know, the next musical revolution.
We're starting to realize that although we're having fun, this could be a possibility of not having to work a day job ever again for a while.
That was our dream, really. I mean, we didn't plan on making a lot of money or being rock stars. The idea was to play music for a living. You know, that's all I ever asked for. That's all I ever wanted.
You know, we were really leery of major labels. You know, I'd grown up through punk rock and hardcore, and you know, major labels were nothing but evil. They had it all, like, neatly packaged and defined, and they knew what kind of thing was going to sell to the kids, and all of a sudden they didn't know anymore. So they let us, when we signed to Warner Reprise, they let us do whatever the fuck we wanted. We recorded in the same house studio that we recorded the previous record with at Sub Pop. All the rest of that money we kept. You know, that's how come I have this house.
There wasn't any pressure to